Good morning, good morning. Hello, everybody. Now, I am so excited to introduce my guest today. I am that mum that literally throughout lockdown has been just sort of praying for that moment when the kids are back at school to get on top of my life admin. Now, you would have seen through September, I've been doing a series of months of helping in various different ways. And this for me, I know has been helping, well, it will be helping me and my life admin. So I'm hoping you guys will be inspired by this to help also with your life admin today. Now, today I want to introduce a lovely lady called Alicia Hager. She is super lovely and the friendliest girl you could ever meet. And she's an absolute pro in the world of wills. So Alicia, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? And yeah, a fun fact maybe.
Well, hi Charlotte, thank you for having me on here. This is really cool. Even if the weather is rubbish outside, I'm happy to be doing this. So I am based here in Poole. I haven't always lived here, been here about 5 years now, and I love it. Fun fact about me, oh gosh, I have some very random ones, but one that always freaks people out is I like to twist my arm all the way around. It
Ooh.
people out, but it's a very good party trick.
That is a great party piece. I look forward to seeing
Don't
that.
ask me how I knew how to do that, but it just came out one night. But no, so I'm based here in Poole. I work within a finance firm, and I started doing that. I started learning about sort of investments and pensions, but it didn't feel like that was really what I wanted to do. And I wanted to explore more sort of like a law side of things. I did my degree in English, so it kind of like made sense. And I started focusing on wills and probate because I found that really, topic really interesting. And it's one thing that's unfortunately certain in life is that we all will die. I know that's very morbid, but I thought, okay, how can I help people with this? Because it's something that unfortunately we're all going to have to face. So I just started learning and getting the qualifications about wills and probate. And my aim now is to just, help and educate people.
Fabulous. And so what's the company you work for?
So it's called Blue Pebble Money is the finance side, but I run Straightforward Wills. So Straightforward Wills is my company, and it's just me by myself. I might have some more people in the future, who knows? But yeah, so that's my company, Straightforward Wills.
Oh, I love that. A growing entrepreneur. I'm always happy to celebrate entrepreneurs. Now, I often ask this of people, particularly in different professions. What would you say is like the commonly most asked question or statement that you would hear from your typical client?
Yeah, sure. So the reason that I wanted to get into wills, I knew, a large majority about it already before I, mainly focused on it. But I remember going up to see my partner's family, and one of his cousins, he's a hardworking guy. He has a partner. They're not married, and they just had a little one. So they just had a baby. And I remember having a conversation with him, and he said to me, it's like, oh, it's fine. If I die, it'll just go to my partner. And I was like, no, it won't. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, it will go to your 2-month-old baby. And he was really shocked by this. And that was kind of like the initial factor in wanting me to then educate people. So you often hear it a lot from people that, they assume, oh, it's fine, it'll go to, whoever, it'll just go to my partner, my boyfriend, my girlfriend. It's not the case. And it can frighten people, and so many people are unaware of it. The other thing that lots of people say as well is, I keep meaning to write my will, just haven't got around to it. It's one of those jobs, and it doesn't need to be that way. Writing a will now is super easy. So those are two main points that I hear a lot in my day-to-day life about people saying.
Sure,
So,
and guilty as charged. Like I say, I've got a will. It's just not updated, and so
yeah.
It's one of those things that you always just put on the back burner and never quite get round to. But I think we'll talk about a little bit about how easy the process is.
Yes.
We don't need to overthink this really or overcomplicate it.
No, not at all.
So Alicia, why is it so important to have a will?
So there's loads of different reasons to write a will. They can be really small reasons and they could be really important reasons. The first point, of course, so for some people, say you're a married couple, and you just want to leave it to each other. Some people are like, do you know what, I don't need a will for that. And in essence, you are right if you're just leaving it to each other. But there's one point that makes the process so much easier, and that's the issue of probate. If you have a will and you have to go through probate, it makes the process so much easier. It takes the stress out of it, because you just hand the probate registry your will and they sort out the rest, essentially. So that aspect is quite important. But the two that I really stress about is, one, if you have children, you can specify guardianship in your will. People don't think about it. It seems really simple, but you know, if something were to happen to you, who would look after your children?
Sure.
And you know, lots of people want to specify that. And secondly, it's the easiest way to protect your partner if you are married, and to protect your assets. And it's just, as I said, it's just a very easy process to do nowadays. And for peace of mind, it's worth it. And then some little minor ones you often see on the TV now, you know, if you want to leave a gift in your will, that's something you can do too. So if there's a monetary gift that you want to leave to a charity or to a specific person, a will is like a really good document to add that into.
Sure, I've definitely seen the charity thing before, and I think, you know, particularly if you've been through something in life, and there's a charity that really, you know, you feel very, very strong about, and it seems right to, you know, to give.
Absolutely.
Doesn't it? So,
and it's so easy to include. So if that is something that you feel quite passionate about, it's very easy to add that in, and also have a substitute if, say, that charity were no longer to exist on your death. So there's lots of cover that you can add into it.
Interesting. So you talked there about the ease of writing a will, and I generally don't know, like, how easy is it? Is the process quite long and difficult, or?
No, not at all. And I think this is one of the reasons why a large majority of people are put off. I think people are put off at the idea of it being expensive nowadays, that it'll be a complicated process and long-winded. It's not the case anymore. So for example, the way that how I do it, I take an initial instruction and I ask my clients, what do you want? Because at the end of the day, it's your will, it's not anybody else's. And that goes for both husband and wife too. You know, you might have different things. It doesn't have to be a complete mirror will. So ask you what you want. I take the instruction, I draw up a draft, I send the draft. I can either do that in person or over email. And as long as you're happy with the draft and you fully understand it, then send out the official will, have it signed, and then you're done. So
Brilliant.
It's a really, you know, easy process nowadays. And I wanted to sort of make it in a way where you don't have to go back and forth to, you know, appointments and, you know.
Absolutely. And I like the fact that from what I've been hearing, you've been doing loads of Zoom appointments, obviously, through lockdown.
Well, do you know what? One of the weird positives of this lockdown is that Zoom has made things so much more accessible. So actually last week I did a Zoom meeting with a couple actually based up north. And I wouldn't have been able to have done that really before lockdown, because Zoom just wasn't a thing. I know obviously Skype and those types of things were popular, but Zoom wasn't. So one weird thing that I'm grateful for in this lockdown is the accessibility that Zoom gives. So if people can't, you know, some people like a face-to-face introduction rather than on the phone. But if you can't, you know, if you can't make a physical appointment anymore, then this is a great alternative.
Absolutely. And that's reassuring as well. You don't need to be local to you in order to use your services. So
exactly. And you know, lots of people get confused over the signing instructions, because obviously a will has to be signed in a specific way. But again, anybody within reason can witness your will. So as long as that's fully explained to my clients, it's not an issue either.
Yes, fabulous. Now, it's horrible to think about, but like, we're on the subject now, so let's just get it out in the open.
Let's do it.
What would happen if, let's just say, I didn't have a will? Like, what would happen?
Okay, so in your case where you are married, under the rules of intestacy, which I'll just very briefly go through, your husband will inherit. He will inherit the first 270,000 of your estate. It used to be 250, but it has changed now to 270.
Okay.
So he'll inherit the first 270,000 of your estate, and then the remainder will be split between him and your children. So for some people, that might be okay. They might be happy with that, but you have to think about, you know, if your children are under the age of 18, their share has to go into trust. that's something you've got to manage and then think about on top of, you know, other potential stresses that you have, you know, to deal with. If, say, you didn't have children and you were to pass away, quite simply, if you're married, it will just pass to your spouse 100%. And again, that might be fine for some people. They might think, you know, I don't need a will. But then it goes back to my point previously where, you know, if you don't have a will, it makes the probate process a lot more difficult. So
Sure.
even just for ease of that, it's still worthwhile just getting one written,
Yeah.
even if you're just simply wanting to leave it to your spouse anyway.
And I guess, you know, in that horrendous moment of like grief and, you know, when that moment arrives, like the last thing you want is to just add layers of stress onto everything.
Yeah,
And particularly where money's concerned, like, you know, it's just, I think it's one of those things that you should just get out in the open, forward plan for.
yeah.
And I guess from I mean, obviously I'm married, but, you know I've got a lot of friends that aren't married. Does the situation become more complicated then, or?
Absolutely, it's such a dangerous situation. So as I mentioned earlier, like when I spoke to my partner's cousin, and he said, oh, it's fine, it will go to my partner. It's just not the case at all. So say, and actually I fell into this category. So if you're unmarried and you don't have children, you don't inherit anything still. It actually goes to your partner's parents. And if they're no longer around, it will go to their siblings and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter how long you're with someone for, how long you've, you know, paid bills for together, you don't inherit anything. And it's a very, very dangerous situation, because I think some people might assume, you know, oh, I've been together 20, 30 years, I'm, you know, naturally, you know, I'm going to inherit what's his or hers. It's not the case. And it's equally, well, it's equally more dangerous if you have children included in that scenario as well. Because if you die without a will and you're unmarried and have children, it's not your partner that receives it, it's your children that receive it.
Sure.
And the problem lies there is then your partner doesn't inherit anything to look after the children. And if your children are under 18 years of age, then it has to go into trust again.
Yeah.
And it's very, very dangerous.
Oh gosh, well, I mean, this is why, you know, I think it's so important to, you know, be having conversations like this, make people aware of this, because it's just not something people talk about on a day-to-day basis,
it's not.
is it?
You know, no one wants to talk about death. It's strange that I do. I don't know why, but I just think it's because I'm very aware of what happens if you don't talk about it,
Of
and if
course.
people aren't aware. And
Yes.
you know, my aim of the game is basically just to educate people on what would happen or could happen.
Of course, of course.
So yes, so if you're unmarried, whether you have kids or not, you're in a dangerous situation. One thing to point out as well, though, is obviously if you own a house together, you might have heard the term joint tenants, and that's where you own the property 50-50. If you were to pass away and you're unmarried, then you would receive the property naturally, but anything else that you own, it wouldn't go to you, it would go to parents and so on, or children and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So there is that little bit there. It's very complicated, so if anyone does need to pop me a question to clarify it, then please go ahead.
Yeah, no problem at all. Not a problem at all. So, well, look, is there anything else that you would maybe want to add? I don't know, about guardianship or anything like that at all? Would that be?
Yeah, of course.
Worth mentioning?
So there's some little pointers as well. Guardianship is a great thing to add in if you have children. And lots of people think, oh yeah, it's fine, you know, if something happens to me, I know my other half can look after my children. But some people don't think, okay, this is awful. What happens if both of you were to pass away and your children are under 18? Who is around, who is available to look after your children? Now, one thing that people think about as well is, oh, it's fine, my mum and dad will look after my children. But what if your mum and dad are older? What if they're, you know, physically not capable of looking after?
Sure.
You've got to think of alternatives.
Yes.
And it's quite a big deal. It's quite a big thing to think about. But it's that peace of mind. It's that reassurance that, you know, if something were to happen to you or both of you, your children are protected. And little pointers to think about as well is I always recommend choosing a guardian that's close by. I've had certain scenarios where, you know, oh, I want to leave my children or have my sister look after my children. And I'm like, that's fine, but your sister lives in Scotland and your children are happy down here in Dorset.
Yeah.
Would moving them up to Scotland cause them extra stress?
Yeah.
And actually that client in particular said, you know what, my best friend lives here in Dorset and my children are best friends with theirs, so I'm going to have her as my guardian.
Yeah.
So it's just things to think about, but important.
Yeah, sure. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure. Honestly,
Thank you
I
as
think
well.
although it's, some will say, why is she talking about this? This is so morbid. But I honestly believe, I love to help people. You know what I do, and I love to help people. You help people in a completely different way, in a much more sort of really practical way of forward planning. And I think with everything going on in the world right now, let's face it,
Absolutely.
we need to have all of our I's dotted and all of our T's crossed, should the worst happen. And, I am all about bringing positivity onto Facebook. So let's end on
We're doing it with a smile.
Absolutely. And I have to say, obviously I've been speaking with Alicia for a while now, and it's never a boring subject, ever. It's a really, she makes the subject really interesting, but really factual as well. And, I think if you are interested in maybe using Alicia or having a chat with her, how would they go about that?
So I'm fairly open to everything. That sounds very strange, but it is. So you can email me, you can text me, you can call me. Again, as we mentioned earlier, I can do Zoom meetings as well. If you are thinking of getting in touch, obviously you're more than happy to, but I think if you could mention Charlotte, so I know that, that's where essentially you found me from, then that would be great too. But yeah, you can contact me anyway.
Fabulous. What's your website?
So I'm predominantly based on like a Facebook page. So it's just quite simply Straightforward Wills, and my email would be straightforwardwills@gmail.com. So they're the best places to get me from.
Excellent. Oh, well, thank you so much.
No, thank you. This has been great, and I hope it's been helpful for people.
It certainly has. I know in my discussions with friends, this is something that we all put on the back burner. It's just nice to know that we can go to someone who's approachable and can do everything. We can do everything from the comfort of our own home. There's no trips to solicitor's office, or anything like that that's time consuming. This can be something that's done all from the comfort of your own sofa, which I love.
And that sounds great.
All about that.
No, I like that. That's very good.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Alicia, once again.
Thank you, Charlotte.
And I will speak to you very soon.
Fab. Thank you.
See you later.